everyone, this is Ashley Elenbaas with Skyhouse Herb School and Apothecary, and today I'm being joined by my dear friend Holly Hildebrandt. Hi, Holly, welcome back.
Hello.
So some of you might remember Holly. She came on a few episodes ago. We talked about frogs and wildness, and what else did we talk about?
Seeds.
Seeds. Yes, we talked about seeds and springs. So, Holly's a friend of mine that lives here in Minnesota. Last episode we were together, she was here next to me, but she's now across town in her beautiful house with a background that her and her husband built together by hand during COVID. Holly, will you just pan the background? I just
Sure.
think people need to see that this like people
I'm in my
actually do
bedroom.
this stuff. This is her bedroom, and they built that background wall. Just built it, just did it. So one of the many things that make me love you and your husband so much. You're just so yeah. So Holly and I we met. She reached out to me because she was like, "Hey, I'm an herbalist. I'm in Minnesota," and I was like, "Oh, you're an herbalist in Minnesota. Do you want to meet up for coffee?" I was like, "Friend." And we just hit it off really quickly and became fast friends.
The
Yeah,
fastest.
the fastest.
We're
So
just like, oh my God.
I know, finally.
Yeah.
So today we both have had a long background with plants and in different ways, I think both Holly and I, but I think one plant that we both have had a lot of experience with is nettles. So today what we're going to do is share our personal medicine stories with nettles. Nettles was the herb of the month, and I usually like to do a little bit of storytelling about kind of experiences. And so, I mean, what better than to have another herbalist talk about their experiences? And so we're going to just chat about nettles for a while. So, how do you feel about that, Holly?
Very great.
Okay, nice. So, what one of the things that Holly and I are both doing together is we've been dieting nettles, which means taking a single plant for a period of time to study its effects in the body. So we've been doing this as part of the Roots and Spheres course that Adam and I are teaching, that Holly's participating in, which is so cool to see her in like one of the boxes. I'm like, oh, that's my friend. And we have been kind of chatting about our experiences with the different plants over the last 3 months. And yeah, we just wanted to share some of our unique experience with nettles, because I think, Holly, what's really interesting to me is that, and I don't know if this is true for you too, but I've used nettles a lot and I've never had the experiences this time around that like I've never had some of the experiences I've had this time dieting nettles than all the other times I've had nettles.
Yeah. What kinds of things are you noticing?
So for me, like I have gone, I mean, years of drinking it almost every day. And during pregnancy, I drank it like many times a week. And when I was breastfeeding, and I've never had any problems with headaches. And I'm not a
Mm,
headache person. Like I don't typically get headaches. But I think it was because we matched this plant with the ingress of Mars into the sign of Cancer, which Mars has
hmm.
been in, what has it been in? Gemini?
Gemini.
Gemini. So it moved into Cancer, which is like not a great placement for Mars. Mars doesn't like to be in like a soft feminine water sign. So there's like a lot of tension there. And I think one of the things that a lot of kind of one of the themes of that switch is um just difficulty with boundaries
Mm,
and self-care and self-needs, self-assessment, and then like anger and frustration, kind of like
mhm,
moodiness, kind of like volatile moodiness. So the first 3 days before Mars went into Cancer, still in Gemini, I was drinking my nettles and everything was fine and dandy. There was no problems. But as soon as like the day it ingressed in and I drank my nettles, I was like so thirsty and like I just felt like dried out by nettles in a way I had never felt dried out before. So that was
yeah.
really different for me.
Yeah. I felt dry too. But I will say that I think that I enjoy Mars and Cancer more than in Gemini, just because Gemini is my house of like income and resources and skills like to employ at work. I just have so much happening about my career in these last few years specifically, and I just didn't want to think about it anymore. So
Get
I
out
was
of that
really
house.
excited. Yeah, seriously, just anything else. So Mars and Cancer, which I don't know. I think that yeah, it's been bringing up stuff around boundaries for me. Um, but I feel more empowered in sticking up for them,
Yeah.
which is not normal for me, but it's a welcome change.
Yeah.
So with Nettles, having that daily and being a part of that change has been a really cool partnership. But I've noticed physically some changes with Nettles, like the drying and the getting dehydrated. Like I would drink my tea and then be like, "Oh my gosh, where's my glass of water?" And um, I didn't have any headaches though, but I wonder if that's been having anything to do with my like bloating. My abdominal bloating has like gone crazy for some reason.
Yeah. I mean, so nettles, like nettles is a plant that it's very high in fiber. It has like a high fiber content, it has a high protein content. It's high
Mm,
in minerals, calcium, magnesium, especially iron.
mhm,
Um it has compounds that are good for allergies. It has compounds that are anti-inflammatory that are good for arthritis. Um and so I mean it's a wonderful medicinal plant, but one of the way that the ancient kind of medical astrologers saw it's a Mars ruled plant. So it's hot and dry by nature. And I think that,
mhm.
when when the conditions internally, like in a person, are a little more cold and damp, nettles is great because it just sort of comes in and it's just like, all right, let's just clean house. Like it moves blood, it moves lymph. It's very detoxifying as well.
Mhm.
It nourishes, but it also detoxifies. But it's interesting because I feel like when there's a lot of this sort of agitated energy of Mars, like I just feel like nettles, it's almost just a little too much of the fire, a
Mhm.
little bit too much of that pointed, directed heat.
Right.
But it's interesting what you're talking about. Two things is the support for your with boundaries, because that's
Yeah.
a pretty quintessential trait of nettles because of its needles. It's a stinging nettle,
Oh,
so it has the needles, and
totally.
so it's like protecting itself. It's like, hey, here I am, you want to bite me, I'm gonna sting the shit out of you. You're
Yeah.
gonna know you got too close. Like
Oh,
that's the
yeah.
best bound, like if I had that on my skin,
That's a really good point. Yeah. No, that I had I was telling you about something that happened at work, but something else happened at work where a person who's a coworker, like we work well together because we're both really straightforward people, but he said something to me one day. It was like right as Mars changed signs, where he was like, are you taking care of this or is that something I'm going to have to do? And I was like, if you want me to do something, you have to ask. And I was just like,
nice.
and he went like this. Cause like I don't do that. Like it
Yeah.
was
Ping, 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 ping.
very stingy.
Yeah.
But yeah, it was just kind of like I even surprised myself. I was like, whoa, like I didn't apologize or anything because I mean I wasn't rude. I was just like, hmm, stood my
Yeah.
ground. Um, but yeah, it was stingy. I like that metaphor.
Yeah, that's a great example of kind of like the energy that nettles can give you,
Yeah.
which is like you've crossed a boundary. I am going to
Mhm.
set it straight,
Mhm.
and what a good medicine. I mean, I think
Yeah.
that's also why it's called the mother medicine. I
Mhm.
mean, because mother bears are like, they don't mess around. Like if you once you cross a certain threshold and get too close to their cubs, like
Mhm.
you are, like you're getting chased. Like there's no
Yeah.
turning back. And I feel like
Right.
nettles is kind of similar where it's like there's a certain threshold. Like and I wonder too if it's like when you have full nutrition, like when the gas tank is full and you're like, I've got it, all the nutrients, I've got everything I need. I'm not inflamed, like I am all good. If it's easier to notice when someone, it's like easier to respond and be
Mhm.
like, I that is actually taking me out of this place of fullness and centeredness.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's almost like a my boundaries were detecting about to being crossed.
Mm.
And then we're like, it was a preventative thing where it
Ah,
was just like, I sense that my boundaries are about to be crossed. What do I need to do to like not let that happen?
yeah.
But it was, when you're like in the shower and it's like 2 days later after you had this conversation with someone, and then you're like, I wish that I said this, then this, and this. And it's
Yes.
like always way too late. But like this was like, how did I think of what to say in the moment?
Yeah, score. Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, but when you are in your power and when you're fully nourished,
Mhm.
you can do that. It's like you're not only like do you have, you know, the brain, capacity because you're nourished. But yeah, like I wonder too about like the nutritional element of how we better maybe as a nootropic, like we
Mhm.
function better. We can think
Yeah.
faster when we're nourished in that way.
I definitely agree with that, especially like coming off of winter. I love that we're taking nettles at this time of the year where it's like winter's just dragging on, and I feel like I'm still stuck in my winter diet, but it's not what my body's craving anymore. So, like, this splash of green is like, it's heavenly. Like, I do feel nourished.
Yeah.
Hmm.
Yeah. I mean, and I usually start to drink it around this time and I do my quartz, but it's been interesting because this month, because so I have I have 3 planets in Aries, which is is Mars ruled. And so I have a lot of fire already. And I think what I've been noticing with this transit is nettles, like right now, it has to be tempered with other herbs. So what I've been doing is I've been mixing nettles with chamomile,
Oh,
which is like the gentle mother. So like
yeah,
nettles is like the fierce bear mother, and then chamomile is like the Peter Rabbit, like go into bed, you know, eat
right.
your supper, go to bed, sleep it off.
Yeah,
Um,
yeah, that's a good idea.
so I don't, yeah, and I mean it's drying too, or
Mhm.
drying as well. So I have to be careful that I also drink water. But I've just been finding, and like I've added a little licorice in too, because licorice
Mm,
can just add a sweetness, and
that's a nice idea.
yeah, it can kind of cut that dryness a little bit too.
Okay. Yeah, I did stop taking nettles as a tea. Um, I still take it as a tincture, and I've always taken it as a tincture. I forgot to mention that. I take it for allergies, usually seasonally, but I don't know if this is a thing, but like I feel like it's cured me of being allergic to cats almost. Like I
Oh,
have cats and I have always had cats and I've always been allergic to cats. But when I found nettles in, I think probably my early 20s, I started taking them regularly when I would have a flare up. And then I just started taking them regularly, just like under the tongue in a dropper. And it's I'm not allergic to my cats anymore, but I do still take them for seasonal allergies because they get really intense.
yeah. I mean, it's all the same mechanism, that allergic reaction, which is your body it takes in the dander from the cats or the pollen, and it perceives it as a threat, as an attack, like as a pathogen. So it's really, it's just your immune system overreacting to something in the environment. And so if you can, it's one of the things that I think Nettles does, along with other immunomodulators, is it sort of trains the army of your immune system to just be like a little bit better at saying that's an old woman in a shawl. She's not a threat. Like she's fine, like don't attack her. And just
Yeah.
sort of helping the immune system better regulate and see what's worth responding to and not.
Hmm.
And also, some of the compounds like quercetin found in nettles is an antihistamine. And the
Yeah.
weird thing though that's interesting is that nettles contains a little bit of histamine in it.
Huh.
So it actually acts as in a little bit of a way like a homeopathic. So
Yeah.
you get a little histamine without any allergen connected to it. So then your body goes, oh, histamine, everything seems okay.
Yeah.
We're not gonna react as much. And so then when something comes in and your body's like histamine, I think we're gonna, last time it was okay. So I think it has like dual actions for how
Yeah.
it smartens up the immune
Yeah.
system.
Or it like shows your body like, like everything in moderation. Self.
Self, yeah. And the tincture, that's great that you're able to take it because then you avoid some of the proteins and fibers that can cause the stomach
Oh,
stuff, like the flare-ups and,
yeah.
digestive stuff.
I wonder if I don't altogether stop taking nettles, then maybe I just go back to tinctures only.
You could. That I mean,
Okay.
I think that would be a good way to keep the part that works, but then
Yeah.
take out I mean, the downside of the tincture is that you don't get all the minerals because the minerals
Right.
are they really come out in the tea. They're really water soluble and they're bulky. So
Yeah.
usually in a tincture extraction, because it's usually half water, half alcohol, and it's just so little, you're not getting that, but you are getting so many of the other compounds that as you have seen really do help with allergies. And do you
Right.
remember the woman who's in the Roots and Spheres course who has POTS,
Yeah.
and another autoimmune disease?
Uh-huh.
I forget what it was. Yeah, she has two like really intense autoimmune diseases,
Yeah. Was she the
and
one who stopped taking her
her allergy
medications for allergies?
medications.
Yeah, I remember who that is. That's Sachi.
Yeah, yeah, that was so amazing. And so she said, like, basically every day she has to take allergy medicine because she'll take a hot bath and her skin will react, or
Mhm.
she'll walk outside and smell something and she'll react, or she'll eat a food and
Yeah.
she'll react. And she said since she started Nettles, she doesn't have to take anything, and she's taking baths and eating foods and going around the triggers that would normally cause full body breakout and hives. And she's not having that. And the only thing that's changed is Nettles. And I'm like, that's amazing. Like, that is truly amazing.
That is probably like the happiest, like, wow. Like I would have lost it. I'd have been
Yeah.
so happy.
Yeah. I mean,
Yeah.
there's like, and I'm trying to think of stories of other students that have had like amazing breakthroughs. I think one student I had, she had fibromyalgia. And
Mm.
so, she was just, she worked really, really hard for a long time in law and just got really depleted. And so she had like muscle joint pain, just total exhaustion. She did drink coffee, which she was trying not to do, but she was like, I can't survive without it. It's the only thing that gives me any boost. And so she dieted Nettles for a month and she found that she was able to give up coffee. And she was like, I have more energy than I have had like, in 10 years. And
Oh
she's
my
like, it's
goodness.
all I need is and her skin looked different. She looked almost like a different person. It was pretty amazing.
Wow.
Yeah. So
Wow, I could experiment with giving up some coffee. No, I couldn't.
I
I
know
don't
it's
drink
a
it
hard
for the
one.
boost. I drink it for like the cozy morning aspect of it. Just like sitting and enjoying my cup. I don't know what I would do without that.
Yeah, I know. And I love Dandy Blend and some of the other ones, but it's not the
Mhm.
same. It's
I
just
did
not
end
the
up getting some Dandy Blend.
What did you think?
I love it. It's
Yeah.
so tasty.
Yeah. It's kind of like if you want to have a cheap coffee at night, if you're like, "Oh, I want that same feeling and that same richness." Um, oops, are you frozen sorry, did I get frozen? I think I got frozen. Are you there?
You did for a second, but you're back now.
Okay,
Yeah.
sorry.
Can you hear me?
Yeah, I can
That's
hear
okay.
you. All right. So I was
Okay.
just saying it's kind of like I feel like Dandy Blend is one of those things that you can drink at night. It's like a cheat, so you can have that like cozy coffee feel, but no caffeine, and it's actually really good for your liver because it has dandelion root, chicory
Right.
root,
Yeah.
burdock root. So
Mhm.
I
Yeah,
know
I really enjoy it. The flavor is just so good too.
it's so good.
It
Yeah.
also sends me back up north. Just
Yeah, to our little trip.
Mhm. Yeah.
So I do have one other story about nettles from years ago. So do you know Susan Weed? Have you heard of Susan Weed?
Mm-mm.
So she's an herbalist from Upper New York, kind of from like the Albany area. She was one of the first herbalists like in the late 1960s, really, that was part of the whole revival of herbalism.
Yeah.
She wrote a book called, she's actually the one that was sort of responsible for the Wise Woman Way. She wrote a book about the
Oh,
Wise Woman Way.
okay.
You
Yeah.
probably have seen some of her
Yeah.
books. Um, but she's been training herbalists up in northern in New York for many, many years. So I have her books. She's like an expert on women's health. And so I invited her to speak at my herb school when we had our herb school. So she was a teacher and but not very nice. She
Oh,
was so I actually cried the first time I spoke with her.
oh my
If any
gosh.
of you know Susan Weed, you know exactly what I'm talking about. And she's an intense woman. But okay, so let me tell you about the conversation I had with her about nettles. So here I am, like, I called her because I had joined her study group. And as part of it, you get a free 15-minute consultation. So I'm so excited. This was actually before I had her teach. And I
Mm,
was like, um, oh, Susan Weed. I was like, yeah. So, I was so nervous, and I was like, so I've got some eczema on my finger, and it keeps flaring up, and I don't know what to do. And she's like, well, what are you doing? I was like, well, I tried cutting out chocolate. And she's like, well, why would you do that? I was like, well, I thought maybe it was the problem. She's like, no, what else? And I was like, well, I cut out sugar for a while, and it got better, but it didn't seem to go away. That is ridiculous. Why would you cut out sugar? And then I said gluten, and she was like, okay, you're just wasting my time here. It's like,
what?
I was like, okay, she's very direct. She so then she goes, all you need to do is drink a quart of nettles every day and it will go away. All right, thank you. Take care. Bye-bye. Green blessings. Bye-bye. And she hung up. And I was like, that was really intense. And I was like,
Yeah.
I was like, okay, but I did it. And you know what? It went away. It went away. Like I would say in over the course of 2 weeks, it was gone. And every
That's very
time,
cool.
yeah, and every time it would start to come back, I would just start drinking a quart of nettles and it would go away again until eventually it went away and I haven't had it in, 10, well, I guess it was like 7 years now.
Wow.
I'm curious. I know we were talking before about nettles and like the power of cultivating and harvesting your own nettles. And I think in our last talk that we did together, we were talking about rewilding. That's like a it's a passion point for you right now that you've been
Mm-hmm.
really exploring. So I want to move into that. I want to move into rewilding again. I want to hear a little bit about your journey in like this place of rewilding, and then I want to talk about like rewilding with nettles.
Okay. Yeah. Um, I think that this topic dawned for me with the pandemic. Um, I just sort of had to like when I started being stuck in my home, I was still fortunate enough to be able to work from home, but it helped me to reevaluate I don't know, well, a lot of things. But I I had definitely spent all of my adulthood um basically getting validation from my career or any job. Like even before I got like my career, um, just like I need to show my boss, authority figure, that I'm working very hard. And when they see how hard I work, they're gonna just tell me, good job, good job, good job, you're the best, whatever. Like I needed to hear that. And so I would be like 150% at work every day. And I was really burning myself out. And and I think during the pandemic I learned, like a lot of us did, that it is crucial that we slow down. The rate that our society is moving at, this whole global culture is moving at is too fast. And there's no reason for it. And even like brought up thoughts to me like the 5-day work week, like 40 hours of work. The amount of work that we're getting done now with technology has got to be like 80 times the amount that was getting done when that 5-day work week was established. Like, why do we have to get this much work done? And the answer is we don't.
Yes.
um, so I really threw myself into slowing down. and it caused me to get to know myself, which is not something I had ever done. Like I never placed value on getting to know myself. I could really dive in here on a lot of different things, but I'll just try to summarize that. Yeah, I never knew myself before, and slowing down, put me outside in my yard, and it put me inside my home in a meaningful way. Like doing the dishes was like this act of care for like this beautiful house I get to live in. And it's not a beautiful house. I will say this. Like this wall's pretty cool, but our house is like a 1985 split level with original carpet. It's disgusting. But like it just like made me appreciate this house and like love it like part of myself and part of my family. And so every little thing that I got to do slowly, I guess I'm trying to say I just learned how to be more mindful.
Mm-hmm.
And it really put me into gardening like I'd never been able to before. Um, we finally have a large enough yard and with sunshine that allows us to garden here, which is something I've always been obsessed with. Um, yeah, and I started reading books, like the Braiding Sweetgrass book we were talking about, paralleled the time that the Stop Pipeline 3 was going on. And so a friend of mine and I went up north, and we went to the camps and we helped in whatever way we could. We donated and cooked and cleaned for them, because we weren't frontline people, like chaining ourselves to equipment or anything, but like we just wanted to support people who had a deep connection to the earth, who felt like water was a family member worth protecting. And I just think there's so much to learn there, and that's hardly skimming the surface. Um, and we were nervous about going too. We were like, we don't know anything about this or like your way of life, but they were like, you are so welcome here and we appreciate your help. And like, it just was like, just such a good like it felt like a good direction to be like turning my head towards.
Mm-hmm.
And I hope to continue turning my head that way and start walking that way more and more. But yeah, it's been a lot of things. And I won't go into this too much either, but it did instill a nature-based spiritual practice for me. Um, and just that is where I find God, is in plants and trees and dirt and sky. Like that's it for me.
Yeah. Yeah. And
Yeah.
I love the way that you talk about, the people that protect water and see water as, as a relative, as someone that they love and hold dear. And, I think the rewilding to me, as I see it through you, is just connecting to the animacy of nature, that it's alive and it has personality and complexity and its own innate sovereignty and purpose. It's not there for us
Right.
as, sometimes the Christian culture would have us want to
Right.
believe, but it's, these are sovereign creatures, beings, elements that are really here for themselves. And so, yeah, how do we form relationships with them where we get back to what we are, which is just like stinky animals? Like we're
Hmm.
we're all fancy in our clothes and
I know.
all the cool things, but like we're just animals, yeah,
Yeah.
really. And so to get back into that like animal body and to be in nature in a very kind of animal way, which to me, gardening, there's nothing better. Like have always told Adam, like when I can wake up early and get out in the garden in those early morning hours and I come back and I'm covered in sweat because it gets hot out quickly and then my nail beds are just packed with dirt and I've got like dirt on my face and
Yep.
it's like in the creases of my paint. That's like my happy place. Like
Yeah.
even though I also like to dress up and go out to dinners and theater, like to do
So
that,
do
like
I. Yeah.
right, like that's a cool part of this animal culture world we get to live in. But but if we don't spend enough time in in the actual physical natural world, in our animal bodies in that way, we can get really disconnected and I think really off rhythm, as you pointed to, like this fast living that just it
Yeah.
consumes you.
Well, and on that note, like with the pandemic, realizing like you're aware of the toilet paper debacle, like it's just like we are so dependent on everyone but ourselves and the planet for getting our needs met. And that was kind of a wake up call where it was like, how can I participate in caring for myself? And maybe that's, I've been calling it my grocery store garden. Just like, what do I want to eat and can I grow that here? And like herbal medicine has like definitely perked up like my senses of interest like during the pandemic too, because it was like, oh, another thing that I can be proactive about my health with plants. And it did stem like this chain of thoughts that I started at like care for the land, be cared for by the land. Like it is a relationship. And when you do care for the land, it the earth notices. It notices you. Like, yeah, you are just a person, but it notices the good energy you put towards it and it thanks you just like you thank it and you learn to do that back and forth. So like, yeah, there's so much we can be doing to care for ourselves via having a relationship with the planet.
Yeah, yeah, and that reminds me of something that Matthew Wood taught me many years ago, which was, often the medicines you need are the ones that are growing in your own yard. And like literally, you shouldn't have to look further than your own yard for medicines. And the closer of a relationship you have with your land, things will come onto your property, right? Like remember that little trumpet orchid flower that popped onto your property? You had never
Yeah,
seen it, and then we looked it up.
yeah, the blackberry lily.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it was like the flower spirit, the flower essence medicine was like a direct speaking to what you were talking about and what
It
you were working
yeah.
on.
So
Go ahead.
when we were on our trip up north, I was telling Ashley about this plant that kept popping up and she looked it up and it was literally a plant that helps with shame. And I was working through so much shame. I literally cried when you said that. When you were reading it off of Google, I was just like, oh.
I mean, but that's how it works though, right? It's like
Mhm.
your energy goes into the land and the land reciprocates. And that's what Robin Wall Kimmerer from Braiding Sweetgrass, she just talks about this reciprocity with the
Mhm.
land. And I remember when we moved here, we bought this house in January. So it was like everything was covered in snow. We moved in, I think, in April. And then, so I had no idea what was on the land here. And it was interesting because I had been praying about like what kind of house, like basically asking God to give me a sign. How will I know it's the right house? And I had this image of me sitting with my back to an oak tree, and the oak tree was said, "Wherever I am, that will be your home." And so we were walking through the backyard, again, Minnesota winter, like foot of snow on the ground. And a single oak leaf came and on a completely white backyard surface, a single oak leaf fell down right in front of me on a clear white sheet of snow. And I said, "Oh." And then I looked up and there were oak trees because they hold on to their
Oh.
leaves, not all of them, but they hold on to quite a few throughout the winter. And I
Mhm.
was like, okay, okay, message received. And so then in the springtime, when everything started melting, I found nettles and I found
Yeah.
garlic mustard, which is everywhere. But I was like, it's a medicine.
Uh-huh.
I found a few violets and I was like, oh,
Oh.
because that I had the biggest patch of wild violets in my house in Maryland, which I cried when I
Hmm.
left. I just was like, I'm gonna miss you.
Oh.
So there were little ones in the forest, and I was like, okay, we're gonna be okay, like,
Yeah.
to the land. And so like this is only my second, I guess my third season here. But it's just so interesting, yeah, how it's like when you get to know the plants and the land, like what types of relationships can form. And
Yeah.
um, yeah, and my daughters and I went out last spring and harvested nettles from the backyard. And
Oh.
my daughter was 3 at the time. She got her first nettle sting. And because we were wearing gloves and they had their buckets and scissors, and I taught them how to do it. And then Summer, she had, I think she clipped it, and then she had taken off a glove to itch something, and
Hmm.
she went and grabbed it.
Oh no,
And so it
honey.
was shrieks and screams, but I knew the antidote. Do you know the antidote for the sting?
I'm gonna guess.
Yeah.
Is it plantain?
No, but that's a good guess because
Okay, okay.
that sucks things out.
Hmm.
So yellow dock leaves or dock leaves.
Oh, no
Yeah.
kidding.
So I
Yeah.
knew where some were down the road by the stop sign in my neighborhood. So I
Yeah.
grabbed Summer, I grabbed Gigi, and I said, Yellow Dock. And she goes, I know where we're going because I had taught her where they were. So we all
Oh,
ran out there together and Gigi goes, There they are, there they are. And so I had her pick them and I crushed them up. We put them on Summer's hand, and like within a few minutes, the sting was gone and she was
so
totally
cool.
fine. And now that's her favorite plant. Yellow Dock.
Ah!
She's like, Oh, that's a good plant.
That is a good plant. Oh, their childhood is so magical with all the plants you have in there.
Oh,
Oh,
I hope so. I mean, I get to live a childhood through them too, so
mm-hmm,
it's
totally.
pretty sweet.
Yeah.
But I know you talked about that you harvested some nettles from your land last year too.
Yeah, it's actually not our specific yard. It's in our neighborhood. There's a little neighborhood park with just like um, a playground and a field, and then a trail that goes up into the conservancy behind us. And I had noticed that there was nettles all along the like wood line back there, and so I harvest there, but I like wade into them. I have to like wear full clothes when I do this. I wade in there so that like I'm away from the ones that the dogs might have peed
Ah,
on.
smart.
Yeah, and then I'll clip them. Like I'll find the healthiest looking plants and I'll clip them, just like the full plant. And I get like a good bundle of them and I tie them together. And I do like several bundles. And then I like have a rope over my back and then I'm just like lumbering through the neighborhood with my
Love it.
nettles dangling off my back. And I get some looks.
That's great. Oh my gosh, I love that. It kind of reminds me when we were in the mountains and you like shoveled, you got us unstuck. You just picked up that like shovel and shoveled the dirt under the tires so we could get the car unstuck from the ice. And I was like, I want to be like, I want to like, I'm gonna do that one day. But no,
If
I
there's
mean, we
one thing
were
I'm
like,
good
it's funny, like you're like lumberjack through the woods, and we're like, oh, our little gloves and our little baskets and we're little cooking. And
at. I
but you know, you
usually
probably had a better supply because you know, we only got maybe like, I don't know. I like to like dry mine on baskets. So we have these big drying baskets. So I
Mhm.
maybe filled up like two. And so we had it for, you know, we had enough nettles for, you know, maybe like 2 months or so.
Yeah,
But I need to get like
come
I
over.
I should come check out your patch because mine is, you know, and that's the thing with harvesting though, is when you've got smaller patches, you can't trim, you can't cut down too much because you really
Right.
don't want to like hurt the, you know, what the idea is like cut like 10% of
Yeah.
what you can find. I mean, nettles, I
Hmm.
think you can go a little more because they grow back so quickly and their
Hmm.
root systems are so strong. And they're not like, you know, delicate flowers or things that
Right.
have their own, they're kind of like connected root systems.
Hmm.
So I think I probably harvested more like 20% and they
Sure.
came back like, you know, gangbusters. They were totally
Yeah.
fine.
Yeah. This field is just like it's never ending. There's also raspberries and blackberries and strawberries over there too. So
Yeah.
let's just go have fun over in that park.
Yeah, I mean that's another thing about nettles is it's a protector plant. You know, I mean it
Mm,
creates protective boundaries in
yeah.
places for like rabbits and
Yeah.
insects because like for like you know larger predators won't go into those nettle patches, but the
Hmm.
smaller ones that can go underneath and burrow can be in there.
So
That's just so
wonderful.
sweet. I'm like,
Yeah.
what a good mother plant. Like what
I
a
know.
what a nice plant you are.
I was gonna say I do usually try to make my harvesting days as aesthetically pleasing as possible, just because like I like cute things, and so I have a plethora of different harvesting baskets. But nettles, there's just no cute way of doing it, really.
Yeah.
You're in your coveralls and your
Got the
gloves.
gloves all the way up.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, it's certainly definitely not the like tank top you know, harvest situation. Yeah.
No. Oh my gosh. During the lockdown, I kid you not. I only wore like long dresses and just like had my basket and my sundress and
Your
just was
holly
always out
hobbit.
in the backyard. It was just like, God damn, what is this woman doing? Is probably what my neighbors were thinking, but
Oh, living her
I had
best
a good
life.
time. Hmm.
I love that image. Yeah. And I think that's what we're trying to get back to in some way. This rewilding is like, how do we get back to like enjoying all the things we do? Like you said, like washing your dishes.
Hmm.
How do we get back to making the simple things pleasurable again?
And don't get me wrong, like I've fallen out of that. Like sometimes it's most of the time now it's not that cute. But like that's the thing though, is it's very important to like enchant yourself with your life. And if you're
Mm,
not enchanted with your life, like I highly recommend figuring that out because it does take you back to childhood and it it works. Like I was so happy. I am so happy when I get to do that.
mm.
It's not all the time. Like I'm not living in a delusion, but when I get the opportunity to like sink into an enchanting weekend in my garden, like I do that.
I feel like that is like a little medicine morsel. We could
Mhm.
maybe end on that as like,
Mhm.
make your life enchanting.
Mhm.
Like, how did you say it? Live an enchanted life, however
Or
you can.
re-enchant it, re-enchant your life.
Re-enchant your life. Oh, I love that. And
I
re-enchant too.
I don't think that I can take credit for that. I know I've heard somebody else say that before, but I was just like, oh hell yeah, like
That's
running with
it.
that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Awesome. And actually, that is a perfect segue into the courses that you and I are teaching, which we were
Mhm.
supposed to talk about at the beginning, but forgot.
I know I forgot.
So, Holly and I are both teaching some courses here in the Minneapolis area. So, if you are local or even in Wisconsin, you're really close to
Mhm.
Wisconsin border.
Yeah,
We're going to be teaching some classes May through mine end in September. Holly's will end in October. Holly, why don't you talk a little bit about your classes and then I'll share about mine.
sure. So basically, I just wanted to get a group of women or feminine people together to just kind of enjoy each other's company through doing something that's of common interest to us. So in my adulthood, I have found that I want to, like really spend time in my friendships where we have things in common, like plants and crafts and other things. So instead of just like getting together with a friend and like you want to go to the bar, like that whole thing, like I know a lot of adults struggle with that. Like how can I have friendships? How can I meet new people if I'm not just like if I'm not in school anymore and I don't want to go drinking? Like adults need some help with their creativity and finding friends through that. So I thought it would be really neat to get a small group of friends together and do crafts. Um, I also wanted to pair my events with the different sacred days of the Wheel of the Year. So we'll be starting around Beltane, which isn't the first of the Wheel of the Year, but it is like that beginning of life. Like life is budding, flowers are blossoming, and just kind of following the metaphors that each of those sacred days are like bringing up at that time. And then we'll go through midsummer, we'll go through Lugnasad, which is the first harvest, and then we'll go through the second harvest, and then ultimately the last event will fall on Samhain or around Samhain, which is Halloween. And just watching the life cycle of the year go from new life to like heightened life to the death process, like and just like internalizing them together. So there'll be a fun craft to do around each event. And then I thought it would be just great to, chat around a fire at the end of that. So that's what we'll be doing.
Nice. And I'll include a link to some more information so that you can find that and maybe Holly's email address if that's cool with
That's
you.
great.
Okay, so you can learn more. It is limited space, so email her soon if you're interested. And then mine is sort of a sister project, which is garden circling. And so I'll be hosting women or people who identify as female to my home to hang out with me in my garden to plant. And each of the classes that I'll be teaching are going to be focused on a spiritual gardening theme. So we'll kind of look at the different cycles of a garden and the different stages of a garden and the spiritual teachings or sort of an essence teaching that I've found through each of those stages. We'll talk about that. We'll do actual gardening. So everyone every day is going to be in the garden, getting their hands dirty. And then we'll do some sort of take home project. So it'll either be a medicine making project, like take home your own tincture or your own infused oil, or it might be a craft like drawing. We're going to have, just one craft exercise that's going to be around doing plant pressings and drawing a plant. So that should be really fun. And I'll include a link to the website where I have more information there if you're interested. And yeah, I think we're both excited to not only attend each other's classes, but just to grow our circle of plant art, craft, nature, rewilded people.
Wild women.
Yes. Yes, because I think we're, it's a part of the sacred feminine that I think like it just seems it seems like there's not a lot of spaces where that's explored, and I love that we have that in common, that common interest, and that's really the intention is that rewilding of the women's spirit and getting us back into those creative spaces.
Yeah.
Yeah. Thank you, Holly. You're
Yeah.
wonderful. I always love our time together. And
Me too.
yeah, I loved chatting about Nettles, hearing your Nettles experience. And yeah, maybe we'll have to come and do like a refresh sometime in the future about Nettles. Because I feel like, with every plant, you're always learning more, right?
Yeah, absolutely. I would love that. And maybe during a different season, it'll do a different thing.
That's right. I really think that. I really think that this Nettles experience for me is just very because of it's very much because of the season and the astrology.
Hmm.
So I'm just going to listen because that's
Cool.
what we can do, right?
Yeah, absolutely. Well, thank you for having me. This was really fun and I love talking to you with or without a microphone. And I don't know. Hopefully it's fun
Totally.
for other people too.
Absolutely. Yeah. And so please leave a comment. We always love to see your comments. What did you learn? Is there a takeaway that you're going to take with you? Are there any questions that you have? We can answer those too. Especially on the YouTube platform. That's a really easy way for us to be able to respond. So yeah, please like and subscribe so that you can find out more things that Holly and I are going to be chatting about up here in the future. And we'll see y'all next time.